I think because the picture that I posted was with my cat, like legitimately 80% of the questions are about the cats. I've asked you guys to submit some questions on Instagram, and I want to go ahead and answer some of these while I also drink my chamomile calming tea, which is way too hot now. So I hope you guys will enjoy the video and enjoy the answers if you've asked anything. And I know the light is a bit odd just because it's like getting dark now. How am I? I don't know. Some days it just really depends on a day. Some days I feel fine and optimistic and hopeful, and some days I really struggle. So I've been having a year this year, and maybe it's not the best time to answer this question when I'm having like a rougher day to begin with. I mean, it's not obviously I'm filming, I'm capable of doing things, so it's not like I'm super bad or anything, but I'm having a struggle jumble day. It honestly depends, which is a good thing because, you know, it means that not every day is hard, and I think that's something to focus on. Your go-to comfort book? Harry Potter. How do you balance reading and working? Well, it depends on what you call work. If we're talking about my daytime job, that's very easy kind of to balance with reading because I don't do any reading during the workday. Like, you know, I have 9 to 5. And if I am at work hours, everything else is at the back plate, you know, personal stuff, hobbies, whatever, that's at the back. This is work hours. I hope that it comes across, but I try to be very professional. So because my work hours are 9 to 5 on that front, it's not that hard. Actually, my back's sore. Let me move so I can sit like an old person. But then I also do other stuff like Instagram, YouTube, and the Moonlight Library. So that's when things get harder, and I feel like obviously the more active I am on those other things, the less time I have for reading. So my main thing that I've learned is that I will never have a perfect balance, and expecting myself to have that perfect balance is probably the dumbest thing I can do to myself. Being the worrier and so hard to myself that I am, it's one of the more self-destructive things to do, is to expect myself to have the balance. So my main thing is to not drill myself when I fail to read. And reading is probably what goes first. When I have, well no, Instagram is what goes first and then reading. But when I have a limited amount of time, I will put reading on a back burner. Is that a saying? Am I just making stuff up? You know what I mean. I will put that on pause because, well, it doesn't have deadlines. That is actually one of the reasons I don't accept books for review, is because I know I would suck and that would just be very stressful for me personally as a slower reader as well. And I've really tried and trained myself to just not be mad at myself or disappointed at myself if I don't have a great reading month, because it's supposed to be a hobby, and honestly, whenever I try to read and I have all those other things on my to-do list, I just simply can't focus on it and I read even slower. And on top of that, I don't enjoy it because I'm kind of like resentful. I'm a weird person. I just get like resentful towards these kind of things. I'm like, that being said, I obviously try to have a balance. So not saying that I'm succeeding at that just yet. I definitely overwork myself, that's a theme, but it's a difficult thing because my anxiety gets worse when I overwork, but when I don't do stuff, it gets equally as bad. So it's finding that balance is the main kind of issue for me, because I thrive on productivity because I've just always been like that, I think. But at the same time, my body gets, after a couple of months of that kind of behavior, my body just goes like, nah. So what I try to implement is some sort of cutoff for any type of work, but in a very general term. So any type of activity that requires mental focus on like a higher scale, so like editing, whilst like an enjoyable sort of more like a side hobby kind of thing, it still is mentally charged. Yeah, I try to have like a cutoff hour, so let's say it's like 9 or 10 p.m. I'm not great at it though, I forget because I get into the zone and I forget. It's definitely something, it's actually on my tracker this month, so I'm hoping to implement that more cautiously. I think it's about planning your time. If you like to block out your calendar for specific dates, I use a digital calendar for all of my like doctor appointments and videos on YouTube, because I just find it easier to like plan so I don't have to constantly think about it. But it's all about planners for me, with like the balance where it comes from, because I need that kind of structure. Otherwise, if I don't kind of schedule myself even at least some downtime, I'll just simply not have it. I schedule it a lot because only sometimes I listen to it, so it's work in progress. Do you watch anime? If so, what is your favorite so far? Actually, I got really lucky because I think like the proper one that I started with was the Fullmetal Alchemist, which is just so good. It was such a strong, like, you know, when you start with a good anime, then you think that you really like that anime in general. Obviously, there are some misses later on, but that one definitely has a very special part in my heart. But I think my favorite is Steins Gate. Is this time traveling, one season I think in total series, so worth your time. I think I really like it, and I think it takes the favorite spot. Where did you get your cats and what breed are your cats is one of the main questions here. We got them from a local breeder, and we did go to the shelter at the time to see if they had any kittens there. The thing is, now I probably would do it differently. Back then I didn't. But yeah, we went to the breeder, we watched we looked at everything and how they do everything and made sure that everyone is like well taken care of and like spoiled. The cats are Bengals. I wanted this particular breed because I am a dog person and I wanted a dog, but I didn't want to have it until I have like enough space and time for the dog. Because obviously cats are a bit less dependent. At that point I wasn't working at home. It was a completely different situation and I had to travel for at least an hour for my work, and Logan pretty much the same. So neither of us could have come back for like a midday walk for a dog. And Logan is a cat person, so we went for cats, but I wanted to at least try, even though it's very obviously individual for the actual cat, but I wanted to at least up the chances of the cats having very dog-like personalities, and Bengals are known to be very sociable and very dog-like, or as dog-like as you can get with a cat. Can confirm, I'd say. They're very different from each other. We got them in 2015, I think. It is definitely not a breed to go for if you're a first-time owner of animals in general, but especially cats. I wouldn't have gone for Bengals myself if Logan didn't grow up with like numerous of cats. His whole family are like cat lovers. He had so many, so many, so he's very experienced in that field. I grew up with a dog, so I didn't really even know how to handle a cat at first, so it was a learning curve for me, but they are definitely a handful. The bits that you see are obviously very cute, but Zeus is very vocal, Momo is very particular, Momo is extremely attached, he has a lot of separation anxiety, very much like a dog, and he is attached to Logan very strongly. Zeus picked me as a person, you know how cats kind of pick a person, but Zeus is not as dependent as Momo is legitimately kind of sulking now because Logan's away for a weekend. It's ridiculous. But Zeus is very, very vocal, and you need to exercise them and you need to like play with them a lot, but the issue is that they don't always play with you. They want the attention, but then when you give them attention, they're just like, it's alright. You know, you always have to like throw something new at them. They get bored very easily, and they're very sorry, as I said, it's my 4th video, so my voice is going, but they're not easy cats. They're not just gonna sleep there and be pretty. Some days I wish they did, but it's just not how they are, so just a warning. How do you keep your clothes so hairless with 2 cats? I do not. We have the lint rollers for when we actually have to leave the flat, but I do not. Luckily, only Momo kind of sheds like way more than Zeus. I do have quite a lot of light clothes for my like jumpers and stuff, just because the hair shows up less. But I do have some like black stuff. This is like fairly new, so I didn't get a chance to get all that. Very unfortunately, we don't actually have a dryer, so we have to hang our clothes, and a dryer would help a lot with like hair collection, like fluff collection. But no, everything I own is covered in cat hair everywhere. Everything is covered in cat hair. Maybe it just looks like it, but I promise you it's there. What's one book you would want everyone to read? That is a hard question. I feel like everyone has such an individual set of memories and experiences and personality, obviously, that it's like, I don't believe there is a universal book. But if I would want people to read something, I honestly don't know. I know a lot of you guys will think I'm gonna say Harry Potter, but I think every kid should be able to have an ability to read Harry Potter. Maybe Sleeping Giants, just because all the other books, like a lot of my favorite books, I can totally see why this is not gonna be for someone else. But Sleeping Giants, at least for the experience of interview-based writing, so it's only done in interviews, and it's a sci-fi, but it's like a easier sci-fi to get into, I think. And I feel like a lot of there's a lot of people that kind of avoid sci-fi because it's a little bit daunting, but I feel like this would be a good book for everyone to kind of try, to maybe then hopefully realize, oh my god, sci-fi is amazing. Are your cats related? Yes, they are. They are brothers from another mother. Insert the song. But they're like 3 months apart or something like that. What is your fourth favorite yogurt? Okay, so my favorite one is Alpro, like the not dairy type. I just love the taste. I always like natural yogurt, which I know a lot of people don't, but then I get why, but like I love it. Then it would be vanilla yogurt. I'm not a biggest fan of any other type of yogurt, so the third would go to the dairy natural yogurt. This is super exciting, isn't it? And I think then the fourth one is, oh no, can I just use like a type? So the one with like a corner with chocolate bits, that one, which I'm fairly certain is just natural yogurt with the bits of like chocolate. If you could have any animal in the world as a pet, which one would you choose? I'd love to have an otter. I would love to have an otter. I mean, if obviously I know that any answer that I give here is like, it's impossible to take care of them, and it's probably like easier said than done, obviously. But in a perfect world, I would love to have an otter and a raccoon. Obviously a dog as well, but I feel like it would be a missed opportunity if I didn't use the other two. Okay, how do you stay positive when your follower account isn't like yours? Bookstagram is hard. So I wanted to answer this question because of the not like yours part. I'll tell you a little secret that's not actually a secret, but no matter where you grow, you'll always look at someone who has more and be like, that is a lot. What I have is not a lot, but that is a lot. And then once you reach that point where you thought it was a lot, suddenly another number that's bigger is a lot. And what you have, what it is. But I feel like there's not even a threshold where you would be like, this is it, this is what I wanted and I don't want any more. And that's not a bad thing, as long as it's like not something that's constantly in your mind, because that means you want to improve and you want to find more people. But the point is that you'll always find another number that's bigger than you to be. Sorry, there's a kid outside, I don't know. You always find another number to like strive for, and that looks in a healthy way, that's in a way that is just motivating, it's good, and the way that it's like, oh my god, why is that not me? That can be very debilitating, and I really don't like, obviously it's dumb to say I don't recommend it, obviously, but I would suggest like nipping that attitude in the bud from the moment that you start, because when you, and I know it's easy to say, but when you are preoccupied with numbers, you can then suddenly turn into like sort of like a counting machine and like treat other people as their numbers rather than people. And yes, everything is hard, but I feel like if you are doing things for the numbers, like Bookstagram or Booktube is just not the place to be. I don't think anyone really well, no, there's some people that sort of wanting to get to a particular number to benefit from something, but you have to, in order to find fulfillment from these kind of platforms, you kind of have to enjoy what you're doing, because otherwise you're not gonna get that joy from it. Like, you're not gonna get that satisfaction from numbers alone. This is not the kind of platform for that. I don't want to just like sit on my horse here and be like, well, don't think about the numbers. It's hard not to think about the numbers. And it's something that I constantly like try and better myself at. I am, I think, luckily quite okay in that front, that I don't think about it too often, because I could spiral. You know, there's always places to find gaps in your own like achievement, but the thing to remember is that neither of these in any world define your worth. Like, that's the thing to just completely constantly tell yourself, because you need to hear that from yourself. But I know it's very disheartening when things that you put a lot of work in doesn't get the amount of interaction that you would like, because that is why you create. You want to talk to people and you want people to see it. And I know it is hard, it's not easy, but I definitely recommend fighting that attitude, just because it's only gonna bring you like fear and sadness. Kinda. It's not gonna be beneficial. But it is a topic that we could talk about for a very long time, and I definitely have my moments. I don't always stay positive, for sure. My top advice is that whenever you do feel discouraged, do not go on social media to rant about it. Talk to your friend that you trust. Talk to a friend that maybe understands. I personally think that the worst thing to do is to go, especially like on Twitter or Instagram, or make a video. I don't think I've seen anyone make a video about it, but don't like be I put so much effort in this flopped, or like, why is no one watching my videos? Because all that does is guilt trip people into watching your videos, and then by nature, when people see that, I feel like they just naturally feel like I don't want to watch it anymore, because now you kind of told me and you blaming me for not watching it. You know, like if someone watches your video, that means they wanted to click on it, because I think it comes across, even though it's like, you know, a genuine disheartening confession, when people say things like that, I think it comes across as blaming. And to me personally, all that does is just, I kind of don't want to watch any of the videos of that person if they say that online, but that might just be me. I don't know, but that is how I feel. Let me know if you relate. Do you like to travel? If so, where do you want to go next? I would love to say that I love traveling. In theory, I feel like I love traveling, or I would love to love traveling in the future. Because of my health issues currently, when I went to Italy, that was a bit of a nightmare, and I think I don't like to travel. It's weird. It's weird even saying that, but I feel like I just don't like it because of what of a struggle it is to me. I feel like when I travel, I want to enjoy all the things that I technically, like in theory, think I would in like perfect circumstances, but I am just not there. I'm not in the perfect circumstances, and because of my physical health, which we still don't know what that is, by the way, I know. It is not enjoyable to me, and then I feel some sort of pressure from myself, because I obviously paid my hard-earned money to be on this trip, and then I'm not enjoying it, and that just adds to it. And I feel like currently I just don't enjoy traveling, but I do enjoy being on trains. And I would love to be in a position where I do enjoy traveling, because I think in theory I would, but it's my health that stops me from enjoying it. What has been your favorite read so far? I'm assuming this is for this year. I think Recursion would have to take the top spot, by Blake Crouch. I love his work. I really need to read the Pine series, but I really enjoy Recursion, and it's not been a superiorly great reading year for me. I think I haven't really found many new gems. I did have enjoyable reads, but I think that one had to be the best. Ooh, what is your favorite memory growing up? I think it's just like a selection of memories. It's just all the kayaking my parents took me with them to do. It was just so much fun. I was also in a mindset of like, when growing up, I was a very not anxious kid. I was super relaxed. Like, I was pretty like daredevilish, and I wanted to try everything. I wasn't afraid of anything, and I was very carefree. And I think just the general feeling of that is like, can relate. But that is my favorite part, I think, just in general. What is your favorite Sims expansion, gameplay, accessory pack? It has to be the magic one. I can't remember now what it's called, but the magic one. How to find happiness in a new country. I moved to England in March, but still feeling a bit meh. Understandable. How to find happiness, man, that is very difficult to answer, because it really just depends what brings you happiness. what I would say that if you can, join a club of some sorts. I know that's very hard to do when you're out of uni. And I wish I kind of knew that when I was at uni, because I missed so many opportunities to make me new friends when I was there, because I was, and like straight up when I realized that the clubs are a thing there, it was kind of like awkwardly too late. Even then, maybe there are, I think there are apps like Meetup, where you can find local clubs with like things that you like, so maybe a book club. I'm just judging from the fact that you're here. Maybe you like reading. Because that is sort of like a bit of a more natural way to find new people. And I feel like if you relate to someone or have someone to talk to there, I don't know, obviously you maybe not moved alone, I feel like that can bring a little bit more basically anything that brings stability for me. If I feel secure, then I can work on my happiness. But I will say that you will get used to the majority of things. It's just a kind of question of time, really. What is your Patronus? My Patronus is a squirrel, and for the longest of times I was like, oh my god, what a lame Patronus. But now, especially when I live in a place that has a lot of squirrels around, they're bloody adorable. I am more than happy to have a squirrel Patronus. First book you remember loving? See, I don't know if this is, I think it was like that weird series of like You Shouldn't Kiss Witches. I don't think it's translated. But I think that was like the first one. It was like a YA, a very YA. And then it was Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. I can't remember if that was maybe the, can't be. But I don't think it was Harry Potter, because I started that a bit later. Speaking of, who is the Harry Potter character that inspires you and that you look up to the most? Maybe McGonagall. She just had such like strong integrity, and I've always cared so much about my integrity. Well, you get married eventually. I don't think I will get married in a church type of thing, because I'm not religious. I was brought up Christian, but I'm not Christian. So that particular part does not really appeal to me, but I don't have anything against getting married. I want to say civil partnership, but I'm sure there's another one. I clearly know so much about it. I'm not in a hurry. I'd like to one day. Do you want kids? Currently, no. Obviously, it's something that might change in the future. I don't know. I'm 27 currently and have absolutely no desire to have kids. If I did have a kid, I'm sure I would love it. Like, I have no doubts that I would love my kid. It's just, I don't know if I want to bring a child into this world. That sounded very depressing. But I mean, like, yeah, you know, it's a messed up world. And most importantly, it's overpopulated, which is a big issue. And with the climate going the way it's going, I don't know if it's kind to do that, you know, so it just depends how the world goes. So I have a Lithuanian question, so I'm gonna read that and answer it in Lithuanian, so please just skip it if you don't understand it. Kuri Lietuvos vieta tave žavi labiausiai? Manau, ko gero visos upės, nes kaip aš minėjau anksčiau, aš daug su tėvais plaukiojau baidarėmis ir ta visa žaluma ir vandens žvirgsėjimas yra žodis, aš neprisimenu kaip kalbėti normaliai. Man atrodo, Ūla yra mano mėgstamiausia vieta, jeigu tai skaitosi. Jeigu ne, tai nežinau. On the same kind of note, was it difficult to leave your home and go to study to UK? It was not, and I don't know why. I think because I was so like eager to experience other things, and because I was 19, which is not actually that young, but it's definitely not like super old. I was just like, I don't think I registered as much what I'm actually doing, what sort of important decision I'm making, because granted, I always knew that it might be a possibility that I will stay somewhere else and not go back to Lithuania, but I also did not move to Scotland with the intention of staying here for the rest of my life, which I still don't know if I will. Like, we'll see what happens with Brexit. I had a comment the other day saying, will you be able to stay in UK? I will. Don't worry about that. I shouldn't have any difficulty staying here. I am a good citizen, I pay my taxes, and I've never claimed anything. I only bring money here, so I don't think there's gonna be any issues with that. But the question is, will I want to? I don't know, because I don't know what's gonna happen here, and I have not great hopes for it, because I think it's dumb at this age and time to strive to separate from something rather than like unite. I don't know what that says about a country. Actually, I do know what that says about a country, I just don't like that. But we'll see, depends on the deal, but depends on everything, whatever. I heard that joke when they turned the the time-saving thing, and it was like 1 hour back, and it was like a joke that the UK Parliament delays Brexit by 1 hour. It's just funny because they keep delaying it. When I moved, I didn't really register that I'm making this decision for my life, you know. I probably thought that I will finish my degree and then possibly move to another country to do my master's. Master's was always a thing I was convinced I'm gonna do, and I never ended up doing it, which is really weird. If you would told my like high schooler G that, she'd be appalled. I was very much into academia for my whole life, but that didn't happen yet, at least. There's a couple of questions of like, have you read, yes, and then insert a book. I'm not gonna answer those just because a majority of them I don't know, but I feel like it won't be very informative here. Are you ever left drained and uninspired? If so, what do you do? Sure, of course. I feel like it would be really weird if I didn't. There's definitely days where I feel like, oh my god, I have all the ideas, and that is my tip. When I have that day, I'll sit down and I write them all so that when I'm on the opposite spectrum of like, oh my god, all my ideas are shit, maybe I don't even have any ideas, then I can pull out that list and see what I can do from there. Granted, a lot of those ideas on my great idea day are rubbish and never come to fruition, but of course I have those days, and I just don't push myself. I would rather not post anything than post something that I'm just like, I know I'll hate, because if I would hate to watch it, then why would I expect anyone else to watch it? That being said, obviously, I'm not saying that everything that I put out is like a gold, because I know it's not, but it's always something I would like to watch. I can't see the rest of this, but it starts with a couple of questions. Is YouTube your full-time job? If not, what do you do? Where and what did you study? What's your something? I don't know why Instagram even lets you put all the symbols then you can actually see. That's ridiculous. Instagram, get your shit together. YouTube is not my full-time job, and it has never been. Even when I was at the self-employed part, it was like candles that I was making. That was my like more of a job than YouTube. YouTube ad revenue does not cover a lot at all. It helps for sure, but it like at these numbers and most booktube numbers you can't kind of comfortably live on. At least in my experience. But my full-time job is so when I started, I was working, I think, at the city council here in Edinburgh. Then later on, I worked at a university as placement organizer. Then I had that self-employed period, which wasn't that long. Then I started working with Fairyloot as my daytime job. And I am a purchasing and community manager, mainly kind of purchasing manager to be fair, which includes a lot of different tasks, but I swear to you, nothing super exciting. So obviously there's amazing, like million amazing reasons why it's awesome, but it's like there's a lot of just, you know, normal paperwork tasks that we do, and you know, it's all very much like any other job. You have to do all of this stuff that's a bit more boring, but you have obviously more exciting bits. But I feel like it's very much different from what people think when you initially say it, because there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work and a lot of stress that goes on behind the scenes, but that's just part of any job. So that's why I'm saying like it's very much a normal job, but I get the pleasure from working from home, which helps with that juggling between reading and stuff, because obviously I don't have to commute. However, that being said, most of my audiobooks were consumed during the commute, so actually I probably listen to, like, I read less because I don't have a commute, but obviously it helps. But I do think that working from home sometimes is glorified a little bit, because I will say that it can be super isolating. There are weeks that I never even leave the house. I try not to let myself to get to that kind of thing now, but at the beginning when I wasn't careful about it, there were like times I would never leave the flat because I didn't have to. Logan would grab like groceries on his way back because it's on the way, and like it can get really isolating. Even though we do have Skype meetings quite often, you're still kind of stuck, and like my other part is obviously talking to the camera, which is alone again, so it can really take a toll on your mental space. But so just wanted to like bring that up as well, because I see working from home idolized quite a bit, and I wanted to have like a more realistic output there, so I hope I don't contribute to that. Where did you study and what did you study? I studied at Dundee University and I have graduated from psychology. What would you have done with prize money from the Triwizard tournament? Something really not interesting and adult probably. I don't know how much. I think that's still like a lot of money, right? But I don't know what housing prices are, but I would probably have put that for a property. 27-year-old lady. Apart from your cats, would you consider having a dog? Absolutely. As I said, I'm a dog person, so I'm having a dog at some point in my life again. Ooh, did your parents know about your mental state and how did they react? Yes and no. I mean, as I said, as a kid, I was very daredevilish and was very carefree. And then I think in my later teen years, I started really showing oversensitivity to things, and when I would react to things, I would react quite like extreme. So if I would cry, I would like sob. If I would laugh, I would like hysterically laugh, which obviously is amusing, but in retrospect. And then when things got really, I only told my mother when things got really bad when I was at 3rd year of university. So I don't know, 2013 or 14. I'm very open, or I try to be very open here, and I can be very open to like closest friends. But being open with my family scares me, not because they don't understand. My mother actually understands very well because she kind of went through the exact same thing. I think it's very generational. I think her mother possibly went through the same thing. They just didn't get the help because it was not very, like, mental health was not very talked about when she was growing up and when she was my age, which is very unfortunate and so bloody sad. There's a whole story about where I think this kind of came from. Like, looking back, I'm sure I chose psychology mainly because I was also feeling all sorts of messed up. So my mother actually understands a lot. She's just never talked to me about it before I talked to her about what's going on at that point when it really hit me really hard, as I said, 3rd year at uni. And I actually had to go back because it was so bad, and I was put on antidepressants for anxiety and panic attacks. But I don't know what my dad thinks. I think he's pretty like old-fashioned, but he would never say anything harmful to me or would never say anything. I think his natural way of looking at it is a little bit, you know, toughen up, which he, I think, rationally knows is ridiculous at this point, so he never says it, but I always have an inkling that I think he was raised with that attitude, and I'm very proud of him for like going against it and never actually saying that shit to me. But my mother understands all too well, and I think that's why I really hate worrying them, and that is why I find hard to tell my parents. So to answer your question, it was very hard to tell them, but because I didn't want to worry them, I never really thought, like, I'm very lucky to never even think about the fact that they would be like, oh, it's nothing. No, I'm very lucky to have parents that would never think that I'm just making shit up. Or that my, like, health is not valid somehow. What is your first Harry Potter collectible item except books? I honestly have no idea, but that is such a good question. It's possible actually that it would be something from Primark because we didn't have any merch in Lithuania when I was growing up. I'm fairly certain it's gonna be some type of like pajama or something. How do you combine your day job with your YouTube? I mean, because it's a Fairly job, I obviously do the unboxings, but I did them before. That is why I carried on doing them now. Otherwise, I wouldn't have added that as an addition. I wanted to keep these very separate. I even said that during my interview. I said that obviously I want to keep this separate. That goes to the Fairly as well, though. That goes to my day job. I want to keep that separate because I just think that's how it's supposed to be, kind of thing. And other than like a couple of things where I think we unboxed the box all together because we were visiting, I just keep them separate. I don't know, like I would with any other job, but like I include it as much as any job as well. So that is a rubbish answer, I'm sorry. But like I just do. Oh no, sorry, the question was how do you combine? I don't. I like to keep them separate, especially I feel like in this kind of line of work where it is book related. I feel like if I let these meddle too much, my YouTube would soon kind of become a job, if you know what I mean. Like, I don't want it to meddle together. I'm happy for them to be separate, and like any other job, otherwise it would become like one thing together and it would be kind of weird. What type of character is your favorite to roleplay in as Dungeons and Dragons, and why? If you don't know, we play Dungeons and Dragons every weekend for a while now, not too long, just a couple of months I think. But me and Logan started a different campaign as well, but I think so far it's a rogue. I just really like playing the rogue character. I basically made it like a bit more extreme version of myself, and I just love it so much. Like, she's definitely my favorite. Her name is Crow. I love her. Are you okay? That is the question, man. Am I? Who knows? What's your favorite thing about each of your pets? Aw. Momo is super affectionate, like very much more so to Logan, but when he does grace you with his like floofiness, and Momo does this thing where he will, when you walk to this room, he'll flop on the floor and roll over because he knows you're gonna pet him, so it's like conditioned to just like roll over, and it's very cute. And Zeus will come up every morning to me to say kind of good morning when I'm still in bed, and he'll like curl up, also meow very loudly and annoyingly, but he'll cuddle up with me a little bit in the morning, and I think that's very sweet. Thank you guys so much for submitting all these questions. I don't know if this will be a 1 video or 2, I don't know, but it was so lovely to just sit here and like chat to you and answer your questions. I feel like it's been a hot minute since I've done a Q&A, so, you know. Sorry if I missed your question. A lot of them had like very similar themes, so I skipped quite a few. If you still have any questions, sometimes I go live on Instagram where you can chat with me as well. And I also do live streams on my Patreon. If you fancy supporting me, you totally do not have to do anything extra. This is free content, obviously. But if you want to, I'll leave the link down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay awesome, stay kind, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!